Hey guys, Micah from Black Bear Custom Kydex. I have a video for you today. It'll be a pretty quick one, I think, on a sheath that I just made for this fixed blade from Spyderco. This is the Street Beat Black. I imagine they have other variants. This is the black, probably because it's blacked out. That's my guess anyway. I don't know anything else about the knife other than, obviously you've got a actually, I'm not sure if this is technically a full tang or a three-quarter tang. I think it's a three-quarter. Yeah, looking through the lanyard hole, you can see the tang most of the way down the back. So I'd call this a three-quarter if I had to guess. But anyway, it is very comfortable in hand. It's very compact. It fits the California fixed blade. Well, actually, I might be talking out my backside now. I don't know what the exact law is in California. I think you might be able to carry any size fixed blade as long as it's fully exposed. You can't conceal it. I think that's the rule. Anyway, whatever. This is for Sean in California, and he had asked if I could build him a deep carry leather pouch style sheath. Originally, I think we were going to do Kydex, but I told him I don't think the deep pouch idea is going to work out so well. It's not that you can't do it with Kydex, it's just that it's more difficult because if you have real Kydex retention on a knife and only able to grip it by the last inch or so of the handle, it's probably going to be more trouble than it's worth to draw. So we had come up with we had just talked some options, and what we settled on was doing, you only see leather. This is all leather exterior, but you can see the definition on the blade. It's because I created a Kydex sheath that basically covers just the blade, and then it comes up just slightly past here, not on the handle itself, but just below the blade. It comes back up here, and that's just kind of to reinforce the overall stitching up here. So if you look really closely, you can kind of see the contour where the Kydex stops. So the inner row of stitching goes through both leather and Kydex. The outer row of stitching is just through leather. And I actually didn't have any thick leather lying around, so I used 3 to 4 ounce leather, and I just did multiple layers of it. So you can see on the bottom, we've got 4 layers of this 3 to 4 ounce Kydex. So it does feel, it feels good and stout here. It doesn't feel weak, and the whole thing is reinforced because the inside, the core itself, is Kydex. So I'm really happy with how this came out. This was I'll call it my third attempt. Attempt number 1 was not so good. I tried to salvage attempt number 1 by taking the top layer of leather off and keep going, but yeah, things just didn't work out. I am not a leather worker, but I do have an eye for detail, and I really hate quitting on a project. So I think I finally got it right with number 3. The only thing I regret about this one, so we had talked about, for a carry setup, he wanted a built-in leather loop, so that ideally the back of this piece would just extend upward and be a leather loop and come back down. Originally that was the plan, but it was creating some bigger errors in my, well, I shouldn't say it was creating, it's my fault. I'm not a leather worker, but I was failing to adapt to that as professionally as I could with something like this. So I have put a lot of stitching into this to make sure it stays on nice and strong, but basically I've just affixed a wide leather loop. It's almost 2 inches wide, basically the width of the mouth of the sheath. I tried to match that up nicely, so that just basically is sewed right onto the back of the sheath itself. It is strong. I don't believe it's going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to come off on you. You'd have to get caught on something really, really hard for that to rip off. So I'm pretty confident in this. The other thing I think that potentially is a good thing about this is that it does create just a tiny little bit of a standoff, so that the sheath itself, you'd be on your belt with this, and just that little bit of standoff maybe will keep the sheath from doing this thing against your body, sticking out with the tip. So yeah, hopefully this is comfortable. Hopefully, Sean, you're happy with this. I'm really happy with how it came out. So, all right. So why would we do the leather over just a Kydex slip for the blade itself? I think ultimately my reasoning for it is because it does make the sheath stronger. It does reinforce it. It does help to prevent any kind of puncturing of the tip down through the leather. You guys who carry leather sheaths a lot, you probably have experienced it at some point. If you carry leather for years and years, usually it's 5 to 10 years if you're wearing it on a daily basis, or even less if you're putting it through any kind of hard use. You'll eventually find that the leather wears out. It gets just it bends so many times and the fibers get separated and it becomes weak, and eventually you're going to pierce through the sheath. With Kydex, that will never happen unless you have expose it to a high level of heat. But so that's kind of the benefit of this particular kind of setup. You've got a Kydex core, which will give you the benefits of a Kydex sheath, but only in the spots where it actually affects the blade itself, and then no Kydex on the spots that affect retention. So you've got a pouch style leather retention, leather look, all that, but that little reinforcement and protection from Kydex. So, all right, this is, I don't think I really have anything else to say. I pretty much just made the I made the little Kydex piece. I actually drilled and sewed through the Kydex piece to keep it all together, and then I put adhesive on the Kydex and the first layer of leather, and I folded the taco around it. I put it in a press just to help it get definition around that, and then I did the same thing to a second layer of leather, and then I started working the shape and all that. Got stitching holes, dyed it, waterproofed it, and then the last step was putting the stitching in and doing a little bit of edge work to it. So, all right, let's check out the fit. So it's not, I wouldn't really call it a click in, but it does snap in really nice. And if ever it starts to rattle, or if ever it becomes loose, you really can just work the leather with your fingers right here. It's behind this nub and right up here. These are the 2 points. If you just work it in there a little bit, it should tighten up a little. I did sew it pretty much right up to the top of the pouch so that you would have maximum retention. But this is great. It doesn't, you can shake this thing upside down. It'll eventually come out if you keep shaking, but no normal use will it come out. And at the same time, it's very, very easy to draw. It's a very light knife, so it doesn't require much retention, but that's pretty much what we got. He'd asked that I make the knife sit basically just below the belt. I don't know exactly what size belt he has, but this, unless his belt is a 2-inch duty belt or something, this should suffice. So, yeah. All right. Well, guys, if you like this sheath, if you like this video, hit that like button. If you like the channel, subscribe. Let me know what you think of doing something like this with a Kydex core. Full disclosure, I probably am not going to accept many of these, if any at all. This took me a really long time, like days. I am ashamed to say, like I said at the beginning, I'm really not a leather worker, so it's not my natural instinct. For whatever reason, Kydex just came to me really naturally, but leather work is a struggle. So leather over Kydex as just a blanket thing, sure, I love doing that. But this might as well be a full leather sheath, and I'm just not adept to it. So I might experiment with some. I might take a couple orders here and there. But yeah, please don't flood my inbox with requests for these. So, all right, guys, let me know what you think below. Tell me what you think of the Street Beat Black, and I appreciate you sticking around and dealing with my rambling, as well as my my leather work attempt here. So, thanks for sticking around, and tune in for the next one, guys. God bless.